I'm not saying Puffy not guilty on majority stuff. He'd probably be more happy in prison than in the streets. Because at least in prison, he can get all the baby all he wants. Puffy didn't have sex with too many higher-up people in the industry. Now, I'm not talking about women. It's a big world, but it's a small circle. Ray J and Puffy dealt with lovers. It was a murder for hire hit. Only person know the truth, the real truth, is me and Tupac.
Suge, do you believe that Diddy and or Snoop Dogg were directly involved in that shooting?
And I could have been an asshole and released that audio. Releasing that audio would have put Snoop in prison for the rest of his life.
Well, returning to Diddy's sex trafficking trial now, I'm joined on the line by a guest who knows Diddy very well. Suge Knight is the founder and former CEO of Death Row Records. He joins me on the phone from the R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, where he's serving a lengthy jail sentence. Suge Knight, welcome to Uncensored.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Well,
how are you doing?
Every day is a blessing. You know, one thing about God, it continues to make us better. And, you know, before we get started is that I got on this journey, and the reason why it's so important that I feel we should always help each other to get better, to do better, because my journey got messed up from people in the music business. And a while back, I had got into it with two rappers in 91. In 95, I took a plea deal. But along that journey, David Kenner introduced me to the DA called Larry Longo. Larry Longo and David Kenner, I paid Johnny Cochran close to $1 million, I think it was. David Kenner, $1 million. And they said, take the deal. It won't be no strikes, and there won't be no felonies. So Johnny Cochran wrote in and told them, this illegal sentence, make sure they go in and fix it and don't give me a strike. All that's on paperwork, and all that I filed as a habeas. But the DA got fired. David Kenner got blessed. The DE got blessed. And I ended up with extra time on this sentence because my sentence carried 2, 6, and 11. They doubled me up for a strike I didn't have. So that goes to show you they can use things against you to cost you more time. They let Bill Cosby go because the fact that he's had an agreement verbally. Mine is in writing by my attorney, Howard Price. It says that I don't supposed to have no strikes. And they still haven't granted that to me. But the sad thing about all this, regardless it's Puffy, regardless it's Easy, regardless it's me, and it was just a situation where when you create something so big and bigger than life, people want to take it from you. And if they can't take it from you... So
Suge, just to jump in, what you're saying, because for viewers who are not familiar with the intricacies of your situation, in September 2018, you pled no contest to a voluntary manslaughter in a fatal hit and run 3 years earlier. Your conviction, along with the previous felonies, triggered California's 3 strikes law. You got a sentence of 28 years in prison. You'll be up for parole in October 2034 when you'll be 69. And what you're intimating there is that one of those strikes shouldn't have been on your record. Is that have I read that correctly?
Neither one. Neither one of those strikes should be on my record because I don't supposed to have any strikes. Also, they had proof of the guys with guns. They got proof of payments where Andre Young paid these guys to kill me with a personal check. $20,000 here, money there, and they all agreed they was paid to kill me. And the fact that if you really look at the whole situation, it started with One Oak. Same people at One Oak got shot 7 times. Same people at Tams tried to kill me. Same thing if the FBI says it's a price on your head, they want to kill you. So when somebody tried to kill you and you get away, how did I end up in prison? But the most important thing about this, they denied me to go. They wouldn't let me go per. But David Kenner, my attorney, did the most crookedest thing on record that you can possibly do. And this is a guy who's getting this. They're trying to disbar him in 24, 25, 21, and they never reported that to the courts or to me. But past that, the situation is this. A lot of crooked cops got involved in hip-hop. Those same crooked cops, I felt that cost me my freedom, cost Puffy his freedom for now, cost a lot of people bad situations. And I think that they cost the most biggest two rappers in hip-hop history, Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, their life. Everybody points the finger at everyone, but it all comes back to the same authorities.
Even as you know, Suge, look, you mentioned Tupac there. Obviously, it was 1996. I mean, incredible to think it's nearly 30 years ago when he was shot and killed. You were alongside him in the car. Many people have speculated since that Diddy ordered that death of Tupac. Is that your belief?
Well, first of all, I got a bullet still today, a 45 bullet an inch to my skull. You can look at my medical records and see the x-rays and see it's in my skull. They didn't remove it because they said if it would have went another inch, either I'd have been investable or dead. Now, as far as what they say Puffy did and didn't do, just the facts. The facts of the matter is this. It's a guy named Reggie Wright Jr., who was over security. He didn't work directly for Death Row, but he had a security company called Right Way Security, who did security for Death Row with off-duty police officers or guys with a CCW. Everybody knows when we go to a fight in Vegas, we're going to be at the Tyson fight, and we're going to be at my club they call Club 662. You can go to that club and you'll see Mary J. Blige perform, Jodeci performs, Tupac performs, Snoop and the Dogg Pound, Andre. I mean, unbelievable talent in one place. That night was going to be Run DMC East Coast night. Reggie Wright Jr. told the security they can't carry firearms. The sad thing about that, Pac hated Reggie Wright Jr., so he had fired him before any of that. I don't know the right date, but I'm quite sure it was. It's paperwork that shows it. But the crazy thing about that, it was a bodyguard named Frank Alexander. Pac hated Frank. He was cool at first, but towards the end, he hated Frank because Frank always wanted to get into pictures with Tupac. And Tupac was very militant, so he was like, man, I don't want a bodyguard taking pictures with me. How is he watching my back if he getting himself in the pictures? So I hired a guy named Michael Moore and told him to bring another off-duty police officer because they kept their gun and they was real aggressive by protecting Tupac. So on the way to the fight, Reggie Wright Jr. tell Michael Moore he can't carry his weapon when he's doing bodyguard work for Tupac. Michael Moore said, well, I'm going back to the hotel. If I can't carry my gun, I can't protect myself or Tupac, so I'm not going. So Reggie Wright Jr., who nicknamed that Pac gave him Pork Butt, so Pork Butt goes and says, Frank, you can go, but you can't bring your gun. Now, everyone knows you can't be a bodyguard without a gun. So after the fight, we come from the fight. Tupac got into it with another guy. It was a big fight. After that fight, after we stopped to a few places, we go to my house. I told Frank, I told all the security, I told everyone, Pac just beat up a well-known gang member. Send 4 or 5 guys extra to the house to escort Tupac. to the club. Reggie Wright Jr. refused to send the security guys, refused to show up. That wasn't a coincidence. It was a murder for hire hit. We was blocked in. It was more than one shooter. Only person know the truth, the real truth, is me and Tupac. He's not there to tell it. Only person knows is myself. But Reggie Wright Jr. tried to change the whole story of the narrative, what actually happened, and he was not there. During that situation, Snoop, who everyone knew at the time, wanted Tupac dead. Snoop had a meeting with Daz, Corrupt, Nate Dogg, the Dog Pound. Said, we're not going to Vegas. This is their words, not mine. We're not going to Vegas because basically something's going to happen. Somebody's going to get killed, right? So Corrupt tells the story. Daz tells the story. Warren G tells the story. Now, what Daz says, when Snoop said that, I said, damn, we can't go to Vegas. Who's going to get those niggas? They already going to get got, basically. Corrupt tells the story and says, once he tells everybody they can't go to the fight and can't go to Vegas, turns around, Nate Dogg says, I'm going to go to Vegas. Yeah, because I'm going to Vegas, I don't got to be around basically me and Pac. He said, as long as I ain't around them, I don't have to worry about getting shot or getting a stray bullet. That lets you know, premeditated plan. Warren G says, when the fight was going on, he was watching at his house. Snoop came over to watch the fight. Snoop had a walkie-talkie. These walkie-talkies, he only got this walkie-talkie that I bought for security and the principal that security doing security with. And they worked on all the West Coast. So if you're an artist and you going to the mall or you going somewhere, they have a walkie-talkie, security have a walkie-talkie. If you're not going to an event with any of the security details, you don't have a walkie-talkie. Because I didn't buy that many because I wanted to be exclusive to hand them out who was needed. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so Snoop comes in, according to Warren G, and he got this big walkie-talkie. They start hearing the gunshots. When we getting shot, Snoop listening to it in real time. Pow, 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 all over the radio. That's when he tell him, hey, I got to go. They just killed Tupac and shot Suge. How would you know? Nobody said that on the radio. You just heard the shots. Now, Reggie Wright Jr. and Michael Moore in the car. They get on the radio, and they say, hey, got him. Another guy hits on the radio. They say they think he's a white guy or a lawyer. And they say, hey, don't talk on the walkie-talkies on the radio. Don't talk on the air, right? So to move things forward, maybe, I don't know if it was 6 months or longer, however it was, since I've been in this prison right here. Somebody played that for me with Michael Moore said. So when I know that attorney David Kenner always says, you can be on your cell phone and people be talking, be like, hey, don't talk on your cell phone. Somebody listening. They recorded it and you can't do that. They're listening to you. So I know that's his saying. So jokingly, I told David, I said, hey, was that you on the walkie-talkie? Because that's your line. Don't talk on the phone. Now you're the one saying don't talk on the walkie-talkie. So that being said, David Kenner goes and says, Suge, I never had a walkie-talkie. I would never have a walkie-talkie. Would I need one for it? Never. So I'm saying, wow, he's so bent out of shape, but I was joking about it, right? I said, you never had a walkie-talkie? He said, that's not me talking on the walkie-talkie. I never said he was talking on the walkie-talkie. So that raised red flags. Didn't think nothing much about it. So Kenner had sent some of my boxes and files to another attorney. And another attorney got them, right? At the time, he wanted the boxes back. That didn't make sense. So when we discovered a walkie-talkie in the boxes, you know, nobody puts something in the box that they're going through the exact same way. So the walkie-talkie, my guess, probably was in one box. And when they looked at everything and reading through everything, and they was asking me about this walkie-talkie, they had put it in another box. Kenner, a guy named Steve that works for Kenner, went and grabbed the boxes from another lawyer he has it. Went and stole the wrong boxes that the walkie-talkie was in, but we still got the walkie-talkie. I said, send me a picture of it. So on my tablet, they can send photos, so they sent me a photo of the walkie-talkie. It blew me away. One part of me, it made my blood boil. Another part of me, I just seen Tupac's face flash all in my mind. I said, these motherfuckers is involved with the assassination. So I tell Kenner about it. I said, David Kenner, you said you didn't have a walkie-talkie. Now you had one. So after that, our relationship after 30-some years went cold. He went and told the judges. He started trying to pull off my case. He tried to sabotage my case. He did, and everything I'm telling you about is the proof.
So ultimately, Suge, look, it's fascinating stuff because I remember this all happening in real time. So it's fascinating just to hear you talk it all through in this way. It's like a sort of murder mystery episode. But ultimately, I've got two questions. Do you believe Diddy had anything to do with it? Because it sounds to me like you're more convinced that Snoop Dogg had more to do with it. Was Diddy involved at all, do you think? And if it wasn't him, then who do you think ultimately ordered that hit?
This is the thing. This is what I do know. I know Keefy D, who I've been knowing since little Pop Warner football. Keefy D says that Puffy and them approached them and gave them money. Keefy D says if he go to prison for, this is his words. Keefy D said if he go to prison for the Tupac murder, Reggie Wright Jr. gonna go to prison for Biggie's murder. So all these things going back and forth. You know, who knows what? Absolutely what? What we do know, money was paid out. What we do know, according to these guys, to the police, not the police are actually doing the investigation, the cricket cops. You got to remember.
Did you ever ask Diddy directly if he'd been involved?
Well, that question would be no. Since all this happened, I never had a situation to have a conversation with Puffy. Majority of the time, Puffy see me, he going out the back door or going down the street somewhere. Only time that I ever had a conversation with Puffy, and it wasn't even a real conversation, I was at the Roosevelt Hotel having dinner. Somebody came over to my table and said, Prince wants you to come watch his show right now. I said, Prince performing? I said, yeah. And Prince a real gangster. Prince, he liked the bullshit. So I go in, and they set me at a table with Puffy, Nas, a few other people. Prince playing his guitar, and he walked to the table and looks at me, looked at Puffy, and started laughing. You can tell he planned the whole thing. Next thing I know, I lean over and tell Puffy a few words, and before I can finish my sentence, Puffy gets up, his people gets up, and they cover him with coats and run him out the hotel.
And what were the words you said to him before he ran?
You got a lot of explaining to do. Rat well, I ain't gonna cuss on your show. I said, you got a lot of explaining to convince me that you didn't have nothing to do what they said you did. So that's that. But you got to remember one thing. I'm not here to bring a person down in hip hop. The culture of hip hop is so important and it was so powerful. It could have been done so great. But I still stand behind what I stand behind. I mean, these.
No, but sure, look, I'm going to come to Diddy's case, which I know you have a view about, where you think he should walk, and many people I interviewed, Ray J, who said the same thing. But obviously you've just revealed a very fascinating moment where you confront P. Diddy in a club when he's known as Puffy at the time, and you basically tell him he's got a lot of explaining to do about the murder of Tupac and the attempted murder of you. I mean, that's a dramatic encounter.
Yeah, and it's a big world, but it's a small circle. Ray J and Puffy was closer and closer. And Ray J tells a lot of stuff, and it's not up to me to tell the story because that's Ray J's story. But Ray J and Puffy definitely were lovers. Puffy allegedly gave him $10 million to an album. They never put one song of two brothers loving each other, whatever it's supposed to be. It's just, to me, we have so much. If you look at all the bad things in hip hop, when it's all said and done, it comes from
did I just to be clear what I think you just said, Suge? You just said that Diddy and Reggie were lovers. Is that what you said? Ray J.
I said Ray J and Puffy was lovers.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that well known?
Of course.
But ultimately, Suge, do you believe that Diddy and/or Snoop Dogg were directly involved in that shooting?
I believe that I'm putting it to you like this. When you take Death Row, you take Bad Boy. Puffy and I was friends. When Puffy would come to L.A., I could pick him up from the airport a lot of times. We'd hang out. If I do an event in New York, Puffy then came to my event and DJed the whole night for free. So you can't say we wasn't friends. But later on, right, people from Death Row and people from Bad Boy, regardless if they securities or not, they remain friends. And I didn't tell my people, you shouldn't. I'm quite sure Puffy didn't tell his people they shouldn't. I don't think. I'm not in his head. But I do know this. We was going to an event, the Soul Train Awards. When we was going to the Soul Train Awards, me and Pac was in one car. We had a bus and a whole bunch of more cars. It probably was 100 deep. But everybody had tickets. Reggie Wright Jr., who's head of security for us, called Bad Boy people and the police who's doing security for the Soul Train Awards and said, hey, only let Suge Knight and Tupac in because they got almost 100 guys with them. You don't want no problems. So eventually, our guys had to bust past the police. He wanted me and Tupac to go in there and fight all those guys by ourselves. They even pulled guns, right? But our guys came in, and that's what happened, right? When you look at that situation, and you look at it's a guy named Gene who does security for Puffy. I know what the recordings say, what people say, and what the proof is. What Reggie Wright Jr. says. By the way, I always say this because he liked me to call him Pork Butt because he happy about that because that's the name Pac gave him. What Pork Butt says is that Bad Boy guys called Reggie Wright Jr. to hire him to do security for Biggie and Puffy and them. I don't know what time it was. I was in county jail that Biggie got shot and later died. And I was trying to figure out how is it, why would they call Reggie Wright Jr. when he worked for us? And more importantly, why is Gene and Reggie Wright Jr., according to Reggie Wright Jr. own words, that they still friends? I know that Reggie Wright Sr. is higher up in the sheriff. I mean, he might have been a lieutenant.
Has anybody told you that Diddy was involved?
I'm not even throwing nobody on the bus, but you know.
No, I'm not asking you to name them. I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you. I'm not saying. I'm not asking you for a name.
This is the thing. They said that. KPD said that. It's a check says that. But at the same time, like I said before, this is what you got to really understand. They took Reggie Wright Sr., who's over the gang, you know, Compton better than anyone, off the case basically, because they said his son was involved in the assassination of Tupac and me and get shot. And Frank Alexander, in tears, told me that these people was all involved. And that's why he did not perform the way he was supposed to perform. And if you really look at the other situation, he got interviewed by the grand jury, Frank Alexander, and he lied to him at first. He said everything started over a chain, which is a lie. He says when we walk into the MGM, Orlando Anderson tried to snatch Tupac chain. So the second day he go to get interviewed, he said, I got to clear up something. I lied the other day. He said, why'd you lie? He said, Reggie Wright Jr. told me to say that they tried to snatch Tupac's chain, which was a lie. My thing is,
do you think, Suge,
you can tell that these police, the messed up area investigation there is to mess up purposely.
No, I hear you. I mean, do you think we're ever going to know for sure who was behind that assassination of Tupac and attempted assassination of you?
I'm quite sure we will find out, because this is a few people who finally trying to get it right and tell that real story. And they've been going through a lot of times with that story, because you had guys like Snoop and Reggie Wright Jr. and all these people calling these people, trying to basically threaten them. It's an audio of Snoop Dogg basically admitting why Tupac's dead. He's admitting why he died. And my thing was, how would you know all this if you wasn't involved? And I could have been an asshole and released that audio. Releasing that audio would have put Snoop in prison for the rest of his life. That's how powerful it is.
What's happened to that audio?
So, what'd you say?
What has happened to that audio?
Oh, it's still there. But he's admitting the truth. And it's real sad, the fact that even though Snoop didn't buy Death Row, he never purchased Death Row, he just registered the name to try to use the name of Death Row. And he can't show you paperwork, he can't show you the proof. But what he could show you the proof of, it's crazy about him, because one day he's talking about doing a gospel album and praise the Lord with a robe. The next day, he's trying to do songs regardless if he's talking about me and other people. I don't know which one he's ever going to get. It's two sides to the devil. One day he wearing blue fingernail polish on his hands and switching. The next day, he a Crip mascot. But what I do know is that it's real sad that Universal and Interscope will let this guy run around and speak on Death Row or Tupac or anything to help him promote stuff when they know his involvement with the assassination of Tupac. His own words put him in the cell. So It's so sad that when something comes out, these guys turn around and try to flood the media with different stuff, with different narratives. Reggie Wright Jr.
Let me ask you.
And his
Sure.
family,
let me ask you.
Say cops.
I hear you. Let me ask you directly now just about the Diddy trial, because you've said that you believe he should definitely walk, which is pretty extraordinary given what you've just been telling me about, Diddy's possible involvement in trying to kill you. But why do you think he should walk from this case?
Well, number one is that this. To say he's part of a racketeering and make a case, they would have to put other executives in custody also, which they would never do. It's a guy named Jimmy Iovine. I consider him family. Been known him forever. Jimmy Iovine used to be a second engineer, and then he started working for Interscope, and I made that company. I built that company, me personally. And Puffy beat up a girl named Capricorn. Beat the shit out of her. Jimmy Iovine, one of Puffy guys, and Puffy approached Capricorn. And Jimmy told Capricorn, you're going to take this money and you're going to shut your mouth and leave it alone. And I'm going to give you $1 million. Puffy didn't give Capricorn $1 million. Jimmy Iovine gave Capricorn a check from Interscope. And Universal should be ashamed of their fucking self that this big old publicly traded company will allow Interscope to give this girl $1 million check.
And this woman,
rapper, not a singer,
just to
not
be
a
clear,
producer.
just to be clear, Capricorn Clark, she's actually been giving evidence in the case. She was your former assistant, and she...
No, she wasn't my assistant, but she did hang around Death Row. She was Puffy's assistant. After she hung around Death Row. But what I'm trying to say is...
She worked for Death Row.
Jimmy gave her that $1 million check. She got mad because she felt that's a settlement check, and the settlement check, you don't supposed to take taxes out of it. So when they told her she had to pay taxes on it, she'd get pissed. But I feel bad for Capricorn, not because she's just lying, but I feel bad for Capricorn on the simple fact she went through a lot. But the other part about all this, if you're not going to say nothing to Jimmy and Interscope for doing something illegal, why would you just put Puffy in prison? The other thing is that, do Puffy do weird stuff? If Puffy got on the stand and told the truth, I know he'll walk. If he got on the stand and say, look, I'm gay and straight. I mess with guys. I mess with women. I do it all. Puffy not guilty for the things he did to these people. He's guilty for being a cold, freaky man that want freaky things done to him. But in the Cassie situation, they could not say he was having sex with the men also, because that'll make him like it's an orgy. It won't be like sex trafficking. It won't be like forcing stuff to do. But at the end of the day, there's no way Puffy should go to prison for the rest of his life. He should have, I think that, go ahead.
I was going to say, Suge, you talked about Capricorn Clark, that he beat her very badly. He beat Cassie Ventura very badly. He was clearly very violent towards women. That's not a nice man, somebody who does that, clearly. But what you're saying is you don't...
My point is this. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like this. I'm not saying Puffy not guilty on majority stuff. He should go to, and he done, right? Because even if he went to prison, it'd probably be a better thing. He'd probably be more happy in prison than in the streets. Because at least in prison, he can get all the baby all he wants. He can have all the men he wants, anyway, anyhow, and all day and all night. But what I'm trying to say is that some of the things, the charges is not true. But I know they're not going to let Puffy go to prison. You know Puffy not going to go to prison. They been knew that Puffy was beating these women. They been knew what Puffy was doing with these men. They been knew. I told people before that in Hollywood, and by the way, they never tried it with me. In Hollywood, we go out there with Andre Young, we go out there with Puffy, we go out with any of these people that used to be in that building. They go talk to Jimmy and all these other guys. Russell Simmons, Andre Arell, they had the thing where they take a hard-boiled egg, and it sounds nasty, but if the egg can go in these guys' rectum and it don't bust, they think they're doing a great job. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see Puffy and another actor. The guy was married to Katy Perry. After I said this, people start finding pictures of these guys holding up the hard-boiled egg. Only thing I'm saying is, the bottom line is this. That because Suge Knight don't wear a shiny suit and dance in the videos, I'm in prison illegally. I'm kidnapped. If it was anyone else, they'd give me a warrant and I'd be free. But since that is the other way around, they can get Puffy telling people they want to kill me. They can say they come in with guns to kill me. They can say they come in to do this. They can have a people who shot me in One Oak do songs about shooting me. If you look at those people, who is those people in bed with? That's the question. It comes back to Puffy. If the FBI can tell me that they're trying to kill me, if authorities can say they're trying to kill me, and I've been shot different occasions, and the very first time that they try to kill me and I get away and somebody happens to die and I get to go to prison, when you really look at it, Puffy didn't have sex with too many higher-up people in the industry. Now, I'm not talking about women to get convicted. That's what I believe.
You're talking about senior male record company executives.
Exactly.
Extraordinary. Let me just finish, Suge, by asking you this. You were there when one of the all-time most famous music icons was killed. You were sitting next to him. What was the last thing that Tupac said to you?
Well, the crazy thing about it, nobody followed us, nobody came, nobody come to help. And as we sitting there, I looking at him, he looking at me. I said, man, look, we ain't gonna go straight ahead this way to the hospital. I'm gonna do a U-turn, and we gonna go to the hospital off of Las Vegas Boulevard. He said, why? I said, because it's more lights and more people. And he said, well, let me drive. I said, I'm driving. He said, man, you bleeding all through your head. You can't see, I can see. And we was listening to oldies at first, but on the way towards the strip, he put in a song that says he did it about me. And I said, I did, you know, that's me talking about you. The song was You Ain't Never Had a Friend Like Me. I take your collect calls, you get shot at the last Hennessy. And as we riding down Las Vegas Boulevard, the police ran us off the divider and fucked the tires up and pulled guns on us and was talking about killing us. So I always think about that. For a long time, I wasn't able to listen to Tupac's music because it put me in a place of anger, rage. And my mother, who passed away when I was in county jail, always told me God loves me. And I know I'm not perfect, and I take accountability of everything I do. And I listen to my mother to try to make myself better, to improve myself. And I'm going to say this, and it's very important I say this because it's true. Some people can't be helped. There's a guy named Reggie Wright Jr., and I say this guy's name a lot because he keeps lying all over the internet about Tupac, and he know what he did. So when I knew that he was trying to kill himself because he can't walk and he got to wear steamy shoes to make himself better, he got a great mother. I even know his father. So when everybody was laughing and said he wanted to commit suicide, I called him to give him some encouragement. he goes and take that to be negative and try to bring down everyone, mainly because he hates Tupac. If anybody had a lot of involvement of the Tupac situation, I know Perk Bud had his hands in it. I know the fact that people can get a show and call it Bomb First behind Tupac's saying in his songs. And every person they bring on that show talks bad about Tupac. Talking about he was raped, he was a punk, he was scary, he was stupid. All these things are definitely not true. This is a person involvement of assassination of Tupac Shakur. I do know one thing. Crooked cops destroyed hip-hop. When I talked to Tupac and I said, look, man, you and Biggie need to do an album together on Death Row, of course. We can make it 4 CDs in one package. Reason why I said that, I was in the hotel room, me and Tupac. All the bitches was, in the bedroom, in the living room, the penthouse talking. And he was on the phone with Biggie. When they having their conversation, I didn't see enemies. I seen that Tupac was hurt because he loved Biggie. And I knew Biggie loved Tupac. The reason we bothered Tupac so much about Biggie because he felt Biggie set him up when he got shot in the studio in New York. And that's all he wanted to say. But Biggie, I used to beg a bitch to let you sleep on the couch. Biggie, I always held you down. You my brother. At least you was my brother. And then now he put Biggie on speaker. And you can see Biggie telling Pac, I would have never set you up and, get shot. That wasn't me. And then to the point where, to one point, he sort of threw Puffy in the bus. And the reason why I say sort of, because he said, Pac, you my man. He said, that's more like well, he said, I ain't going to say all that. Basically, I wouldn't have did that to you. And I could see Tupac was relieved, but he was still angry at the fact he felt that Biggie didn't do nothing to stop it. So me being a businessman, me being an older brother to Tupac, I said, man, seeing you got your answers. I said, I could tell you down about the situation. He said, man, you know what? He said, Biggie's my brother, man, but I hate the motherfucker, but sometimes I love the motherfucker. And he had that old Tupac laugh and do a grin about it. Had a big grin. But I'm going to say this before I go. Ted Carter was a friend of mine who happened to pass away by accident that I'm in it for. And to the point where his family was suing me. I told David Kenner, he related to the lawyer representative named Lance, that I would give the Carters, the wife and the 2 daughters, $2 million apiece. I was prepared to get them $6 million. They was going back and forth to get it done. Attorney Jasmine Mine got involved and then they helped get the situation for Kenner. But I felt bad because they said, we don't got to give them that. They dumb. We're going to give them less than that because they dumb. Lance made me angry because he told Kenner and them that Lydia Carter is a drunk, but who wouldn't be a drunk? You lose your husband. She said she's a drunk alcoholic and her breath smelled like shit. Her breath always stinks. That pissed me off. But more importantly, Lance sold the Carters out. I knew one thing. Once Attorney Jasmine Mines got involved, and she being a woman, I knew that was going to change the whole, not that she's not smart, but it was going to change the whole look of the case. And then when you look at the thing in court, in the settlement, the last day in court, you got Lydia Carter and the two daughters sitting on one side. You got David Kenner, Attorney Jasmine Mines, and you got Lance sitting next to Jasmine on my side.
Crazy stuff.
The Carters and saying that he sold them out because he'd rather sit next to a pretty girl.
Crazy stuff. Suge Knight, we've run out of time, unfortunately. It's been fascinating to talking to you on Uncensored. I really appreciate
great talking to you. I'm out of time myself. Hey, put it to you like this. I ain't saying I'm perfect, but I am Suge Knight. I'm out.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.